We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Elmont Village Council, May 20th, 2025. Welcome to the Village Township Hall. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
President Dyke.
Present.
President Pro Tem Stuffler. Present. Councilmember Feldman.
Present.
Councilmember Glasser.
Present.
Councilmember Miller. Councilmember Powell.
Present.
Councilmember Schneider.
Present.
Do we have any additions or deletions from tonight's agenda as presented?
I have one request.
Yes.
I appreciate Clerk Heisler putting utility billing on the agenda tonight as requested. I would like to push that back until one, we have our full board, because I would like Councilmember Miller's input, as well as we're sort of in budget crunch time, and I think it would be unfair for village administration to try and
So
make a change.
you're
Yeah.
requesting that you remove tonight to a future date?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
We are going to remove utility billing from as item number 6 and replace homecoming bylaws as item 6 instead of item 7. I'll remind council that we do have a more longer agenda tonight, so I'll ask everybody to stay focused and on point. Communications Life-Saving Award presentation.
Good evening, Council. This evening, I'd like to take a few moments to honor one of our officers, Officer Kowalik. Could you come up here and join me, please? Council, on March 25th of this year, Officer Kowalik was traveling with his family in Monroe County. As he approached an overpass on I-75, he noticed a distraught young lady standing on the ledge of the overpass. Without hesitation, he stopped, approached with compassion, and engaged the young lady in conversation, quickly trying to establish a rapport. Demonstrating courage and empathy, Officer Kowalik was able to successfully prevent her suicide and guided her physically away from the ledge to save her life. And this amplifies exactly the high standards that the Elmont Police Department has for its staff. With that, I'd like to present this life-saving award to Officer Kowalik for a job well done, and we appreciate it. Would you like to update the council on status?
So after the incident occurred and we were able to have her care and custody, she was given to the ambulance and the medical staff to be taken to the hospital. My wife actually took the lead on this because I don't have social media, and was able to find her, and they were able to communicate. And since that time up to current, we've kept in touch with her and made sure her well-being is well, trying to guide her through the process. So even though this transpired on that date, the relationship that's been established from that point forward is the key thing. And if it wasn't by the grace of God for me being there at that moment in time, being called to that spot, I don't believe, and as she did reflected in our texts and conversations, she indicated she would have ended her life that day had it not been for everything lining up the way it did. So I appreciate the council considering this. I appreciate the department taking this consideration. I'm glad to report that as of a few days ago, everything is still going okay and she's getting better. So,
As a council, we thank you for your personal action and just taking care and caring for a person that much, but also setting our department at a high standard for your professionalism. So thank you for everything you've done and the follow-up. That's just amazing.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's the best ever meeting we've had in a long time.
Agreed.
Other communications, EMS report. Anybody have any questions, concerns with the EMS report? Being none, we will move on to consent agenda. Regular meeting minutes on May 6th.
Very good job, Kim. I don't have it.
Thank you.
General fund. Major streets. Local streets. Parks and Recreation Fund. Downtown Development Authority Fund. Stimulus Grant Fund. Capital Project Fund. Sewer Fund. Water Fund. Equipment Fund. Payroll Register Report. Water Report. DPW Activity Report. Police Clements Report, or I'm sorry, Wastewater Treatment Plant Report. Police Clements Activity Log and Monthly Report. The OAA Report. Construction Code Authority Report. Financial Position Report. Treasurer Monthly Report and Update. Fire Department Report. There are no questions or concerns with any of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I do have one quick question. It's just on the SRO report. I don't remember seeing SRO reports previously. I know we used to receive them with our previous SRO. They were always incredibly detailed, lots of information. This is the first one that I remember seeing. Has there been other SRO reports recently? I don't think, is this the first one?
We had one last meeting. We had one.
We did have one last meeting as well. I just didn't remember if we had one previously as well. Love that they're here, want to see them. If there's any chance that we could show the previous SRO reports to our new SRO, just because the previous ones were so incredibly detailed. There was a lot of information in those, things that we would not otherwise know. This is a good start. I would just like to at least, that was a great model for how our previous SRO handled it, for lots of detailed information. It's our only insight into that. So I'd like a little bit more detail if possible. Maybe not to that extent, because it was quite a bit, but just a little bit more.
They were very nice.
Yes.
I agree.
Anybody else on council with, in regards to concerns with the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support. Go ahead.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Glosser to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes with all council members present. Now is the time for public comment on any agenda, on any item on tonight's agenda. Any public comment on any item on tonight's agenda? Being none, we'll move on to the regular agenda. DDA road closure 2025 Jeep and Cruise Nights. The DDA director has requested on specific Thursday and Tuesday nights as listed that Mill Street from Main Street to Bristol Street be shut down from 5 to 9 p.m. for those events. And they did this similar last year. I think the cruise nights are actually on a different night, but it's the same concept, same kind of time format. Does anybody on council have any questions regarding the DDA request to close Mill Street to Bristol Street 5 to 9 on the listed dates? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we grant the approval of the road closing for Jeep Cruise Nights for Bristol Street and Mill Street, or from Mill Street to Main Street to Bristol Street from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for all of the nights listed as proposed.
Is that cruise and Jeep nights?
Do we need a separate motion for each, or are we going to do just one? It can be one? Okay,
For
so
the noted
then
dates.
it's for both cruise nights and Jeep nights.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by President Pro Tem Stepler to approve the DDA request to close Main Street to Bristol, 5 to 9 p.m. on the listed Tuesday and Thursday dates. As noted, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes by all council members present. Moving on to agenda item number 2, social district hours expansion. DDA director is requesting a social district be allowed to operate the following dates and times in relation to the cruise and Jeep nights. That would be May 27th, June 24th, July 22nd, August 26th, and September 23rd. So we're talking 5 different dates. And they're just asking for the social district to be expanded on those dates, which are normally not. And those are,
They're all Tuesdays.
so.
It's actually just Jeep nights.
Okay, yeah. So that's just for the listed Jeep nights that we did in the other one. And Tuesday, normally the social district is not available. But according to what we passed, they can request for special events. And they did do this last year, and there was no issues that I know of on those dates, so. Does the council have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So just to clarify, we're asking for only the Tuesdays because normally Wednesday through Friday,
It is a social district night.
but it's not for the entire district. It's for the common areas, correct? Which does not include the parking lot. To include the parking lot, it has to be a special event on both Thursdays and Tuesdays. Because we have, if we remember the map, there's a common areas in front and behind. Remember, because we took away the front one from Chickies.
You're not wrong. I know what you mean. And guess what I'm questioning now is the request, because this would be considered special event, so you could open it up, but
But you have to request this as a special event, which then would automatically open up the hours. You're not just asking to open up the hours, you're asking to create a special event for each of these dates.
True, but what I'm saying is, what I feel like we need clarification on is if they want this to apply to the parking lot, or if they just want social district in the normal zones for that night. I think it's that they just want it for that night, but I'm not certain. If that's a good point. I don't think that it's meant for, they wanted it to be expanded to the entire district like a special event where it would be applicable to the parking lot itself. I thought this was so that it would cause the draw in front of those specific licensed units. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Well,
believe,
last year, I think they used them as special events because I think they want them to be able to have.
I don't know.
Walk out to the car.
It's a good question. I don't know which it is, whether it's being able to use it in front of the designated areas in front of the businesses, or if it's to have it expand to the parking lot, which is what he's getting at, which would mean it needs to be a special event. To open it up, agreed.
Both nights, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. Well. is that-
Because Wednesday through Friday is only for the common area.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And I guess if by that logic, if that's why they're not asking for cruise nights because it was already applicable, then it would mean the request is not for the parking lots. It's just for the specific designated zones in front of them, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at, is that part is unclear whether the intention was to expand it out beyond that or just to be able to use the normal zones, not the special event zones, but just the normal zones, and just opening up those normal hours for Tuesday, since they aren't right now. I think that's what the request was. I don't know that they were trying to open it up for the whole district. If so, that would make it's a much more substantial request if it's that.
Then I say we just approve this, and if they want to expand, the only night that would be affected would be the May 27th, I believe.
It would make sense to.
So if approved as written, we are making the assumption it's for common areas only. On
Correct. I feel like
Tuesdays.
the motion should be phrased that way
Yeah.
because it is for common areas only.
Right.
If they want beyond that special event, then you need to rebring that request with a.
To the first meeting in June.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if the motion were to call this a special event, would that cover both?
but only on those dates. Then it wouldn't cover it on the,
Thursday.
The Thursdays. Yeah.
I also think that the expansion to the entire district for special event is a larger conversation.
Yeah.
DDA should probably be present.
Right.
This is rather more rote because it's just adding the same zones we always have, just adding some more days and times. If we're talking about expanding it the whole way we do for like Heritage Fest or something else like
Right.
that, that's a larger request. We probably need more information. We probably want to have some more question and answer with that.
Right.
So I would, as much as I'm not unwilling to do that, I feel like that warrants more conversation because otherwise we're creating several special events and it would only be applicable to Jeep Night. It wouldn't help them for cruise nights.
And
I don't,
we're taking the assumption of a DDA event as council.
I think,
And that's something we've got a subcommittee meeting next week, so we can discuss it there,
sure.
to get more clarification.
I think there's more than enough here that we can draw the inference. The intention was for the normal zones, at least for tonight.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I will make the motion that the village council grant approval expanding the social district operating hours for the dates and times suggested for the Jeep cruise nights.
Motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by Councilmember Glasser to approve the expansion of the social district on the stated dates or to run in line with the Jeep Night events. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes with all council members present. Agenda item number 4, back up. So, agenda item number 3, social media policy. Okay, this has been before council twice now. We've gotten clarifications, we've had deep debate about it. So this is, again, the presentation of updating the social media policy as presented.
Mr. Kerberson, can you give us any clarification on what different requested modifications or red lines were done to the policy? The training deck, rather, excuse me?
Training deck is a separate agenda item.
Well, we made this, okay, apologies. I don't see why. I thought they were the same item, but never mind, take it back. Then I guess my only question is I know there was concerns and issues with the acknowledgement form, the language of the acknowledgement. And so is this the revised version of the acknowledgement?
This is the acknowledgement that was vetted by the village attorney.
Right.
Not everyone signing this acknowledgement, correct?
That's kind of what the issue was, is that the language as it sits isn't applicable to the 3 different types of individuals who could sign it. And we discussed, well, we could modify that. This isn't really a modified version though, is it? So
No, but in the end, it was, as I recall, that either someone signs it or they don't.
that's it. I don't disagree with that ending conclusion, but I believe what we were discussing is we wanted a modified version of that language that would be applicable to the different people that are going to need to sign. Because, so for example, this acknowledgement form makes more sense as the acknowledgement of the handbook, for example, but appointed people aren't going to sign the employee handbook necessarily. So it isn't globally applicable. It's kind of inapplicable as written. It makes sense for anyone who has to sign the employee handbook. So regular employees, even village council members who have to sign for the handbook, it makes sense for them. It doesn't necessarily make sense, this acknowledgement, the way it's worded for appointed officials. I believe that's what President Pro Tem Steffler's issue was with it. I don't necessarily disagree. There isn't,
It doesn't look like it changed.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
bringing up. So I didn't know if there was a revised version.
There was no revised version provided. I thought the question was whether or not it was applicable to everyone because
No, but during the,
Elected
no,
officials
but during the discussion, we asked that it be updated to reflect both employees and serving board members with language
Or
that way.
a separate policy,
Right.
like separate acknowledgement
There,
forms.
or an acknowledgement that would be designed to fit the three different types:
I see.
employees, village council members, and appointed officials, right? Because the language is slightly
Sure.
tweaked for those unless we draft new language that would be applicable to all because of its flexibility in the way that it's drafted. So, because it's the same, and I was concerned about that, and I was hoping not to have it delayed further because of that, I drafted a revised acknowledgement. I wanted to see if staff had one instead, or if we'd spoken to council about it. If not, I do have proposed revision language that I think would satisfy the concerns that President Pro Tem Steffler raised. If council is interested, if not, if we need to table this yet again to address that, then we can. I'm not sure if we want to look at the revised acknowledgement language.
I mean, I think it makes sense that if we vote on it tonight, and if it passes, we can develop the appropriate form for the two other entities. I think the concern is moving forward with employee handbook acknowledgement, and I think people were comfortable with that language. So
No, I'm confused. So your suggestion is move forward with it?
with the vote as to whether we're going to implement the social media policy.
And leave the acknowledgement of it to a later date, or?
We'll have a form developed for the appropriate entities.
so if I might, each organization that's signing off will have it titled appropriately.
Classification of who it applies to.
Which is certainly one way of approaching. What I'm saying is I do have revised language that I drafted that I think is applicable to all if we're at least willing to look at it and see if it's acceptable. If not, we can still proceed with that way. I think that there's maybe a simpler fix. Either way, it sounds like we could potentially move forward with it, which is the ultimate goal. I understood the concerns that you raised at the last one. It makes sense to have an acknowledgement form that is applicable to all three different types. And since I didn't see any, I took a shot at it just so we could try to have something solid tonight for approving it. If that's not something we even want to look at and want to kick that can down the road, I guess we can do that. But I was under the impression that council would want to see and review what the acknowledgement language was.
Right.
That
and-
would have been my preference,
That would
but
be
I
the-
also don't like to review things on the fly.
I mean, I redlined it off of this language, so you can tell exactly what's changed. So.
Yeah, but not being able to see it.
Oh, no, I printed 10 copies just in case, so that everyone could see it. I came prepared just in case. So but if no one wants to see it, if we want to just kick that can down the road, we don't have to. I'm just suggesting that we could actually fix this right now, if it's something you're interested in.
What's council's pleasure?
I'd rather just vote on whether we're going to implement it or not, and then develop the form later.
Amend it
Yeah,
with addition or changes to the acknowledgement form.
like I see wanting to just move on, so I'm willing to concede that.
Wondering how that works logistically for staff. How do you implement your social media policy in your handbook if we're delaying the
Because only
acknowledgement?
employees have to sign the handbook,
Well,
and the existing form applies to employees.
The other boards still have to approve the social media
Right.
policy. So we would have.
well, so how did
But then again, if we amend the social media policy, then we have to amend the handbook again.
this is kind of what I'm getting at, is it sounds like we're saying we approve the policy, but not the acknowledgement form, so I don't know how they can actually implement it if the acknowledgement language isn't acceptable to anybody. I'm just trying to make sure they can actually use it.
It's not, the acknowledgement is only applying to employees currently.
And if I might, the acknowledgement isn't necessarily in the handbook. That would be in the personnel file.
Well, it is in the handbook.
It is in the handbook. That's kind of what I'm getting
Is
at.
my interpretation of what you guys are saying is the handbook does not apply to,
It doesn't apply to everybody.
the handbook does not apply to
Appointed officials.
appointed officials. So the social media yeah, but
The social
that's
media policy.
confusing. Well, the social media policy is part of the handbook, but the handbook does not apply to appointed officials. So are we saying that the social media policy is the consent form for the appointed boards is a separate entity that could be implemented later on into the social media policy because it's not applicable to the handbook of the employees?
It would be the same policy, it's just the acknowledgement form will be different for the appointed officials.
This is what our attorneys recognized when they drafted it, which is why they stuck an acknowledgement section in the social media policy itself. That's why, I mean, if you look at it, it's page 81 of our packet. They put the acknowledgement acceptance language at the end of the social
So I
media
guess the
policy.
question, so I guess the question is, if we pass the social media tonight contingent on changes to the form in the future, does that mean the entire handbook would have to be amended again, or would you just implement that change into the handbook from?
No, if council is comfortable with the acknowledgement form as is now for the employees, it can go in the handbook, and there wouldn't be any amendments to the handbook going forward. There would just be an amendment.
So the social media policy stands as a policy separate of the handbook for the appointed officials then? And that's the one we would amend?
Correct.
I think my understanding is for employees, and according to the Bodman firm, that it applies to council as well, since we're W-2 employees, we get paid. So regular employees, village council members, they're gonna have to sign the handbook, which comes with its own very comprehensive acknowledgement form. The version that goes into the handbook doesn't have its own acknowledgement form because it's inside of the handbook and you have your own acknowledgement. You sign for the entire handbook, which is inclusive of the social media policy. This other acknowledgement language was drafted specifically for those that don't sign the entire handbook. That was my rough understanding of how that was supposed to work. So the revised language, so basically it sounds like the acknowledgement red line language that's at the end of the social media policy isn't applicable for what's inserted into the handbook, because it has its own very large acknowledgement form at the end of the handbook, which is for the totality of the handbook, correct? So that language that we're talking about revising isn't going to be the portion that goes into the handbook, right? It's just the portion that would be appointed board members.
That was going to be my question, why there was two acknowledgements.
Because that's what Bodman raised when they went over it, is that you're going to have appointed officials outside of that are going to need to acknowledge it, whereas everybody else, it goes into the handbook and they have to sign the entire handbook. So the acknowledgement, the rather lengthy acknowledgement.
So with that said, we could pass as is tonight
And then
amend
the
next
acknowledgement
meeting.
language.
Yes.
Yep.
Is council comfortable with that? Does council have any other questions regarding the social media policy? And the hour of many hours has arrived. Do we have a motion?
Take it that I will have to make that motion. I will make the motion that village council adopt the social media policy as amended.
Do we have support? Do we have support, or is it dying here?
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Powell, supported by motion made by Councilmember Schneider, supported by Councilmember Powell to adapt the proposed social media policy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Policy fails.
So I'm a bit confused. If we're opposed to it, we'd like to know why we're opposed to it. I thought there was no other concerns. We just asked if there was any other concerns. There's no other concerns, but we're not passing it. So how are we to proceed from here?
I believe I've made my opinion pretty well known as to how far the social media policy extends. So if that's open for discussion, I think that would be my starting point.
With Mindy on that, it's going a little too far. Completely support the full-time employees and any official social media, recognized official social media sites on any platform for anything related to the government or the village or whoever else. But when you step over the line to personal, just too far.
A different view.
Sam?
I just had a different view on it, but reading through it, so I was just, I don't know, I feel like I wanted to just get it more clear here, in the final draft.
If the social media policy failed, then we may as well remove the training deck for now, since there's no social media policy to train. Employee handbook.
So do we keep the current social media policy that's in the handbook so we can get the handbook passed in order to get the ESTA language in it?
Yeah, because it took us 6 months to work on the social media policy, and then it crashed and burned, so there's no telling where that's heading.
And again, we can always amend it if the social media policy gets amended.
Agreed.
Do we have a motion to approve the employee handbook as presented, changes to the employee handbook as presented?
How would we like that worded, with the exception of social media policy?
Well, we're just keeping what we currently have in the handbook.
For social media policy, but you made other changes that were
It
important.
was the sick days and paid leave.
Correct. Right.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys weren't opposed to this social media policy for the employees.
Oh,
You guys,
No,
as
they're-
elected officials, you're considered employees, so you get the handbook.
I get where you're headed, but it doesn't work because the
It doesn't
policy has
work.
too much, well, because the policy has too much language that goes beyond that.
All right.
It would have to be completely rewritten to fit that concept.
so can we accept the changes made on the sick time to the employee handbook, but remove changes to the social media policy?
No changes. to
There
the-
are no
There
changes
are
in
no
the-
changes to the social media policy.
I mean-
It stays as it is.
Correct, but the version we have in front of us is revised with the new social media policy, right?
No.
And
The
there are
motion, the
other-
motion would have included that.
Well, that's why I thought we had passed
It-
the vote on the
That's
social
not
media
correct.
policy.
I think she's correct that the social media policy is inside of it.
Oh,
It is.
Okay.
And so what she's proposing is to accept all changes except
right.
For, yes.
the social
changes.
media policy.
That would be my motion, that we accept all changes outside of the social media policy changes to the employee handbook.
I'll support it.
Motion by President Pro Tem Steffler, supported by Councilmember Feldman to approve the employee handbook as presented, minus the specified changes to the social media policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The next agenda item on our agenda is agenda item number 6, the homecoming bylaws. These were discussed in open discussion at our last meeting. There was not many suggested changes at that time. Does anybody have any other questions in regards to this, the updated bylaws for the homecoming committee? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the bylaws as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Elmont Village Homecoming Committee bylaws as stated in the record.
Support?
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Glasser to approve the village homecoming updated bylaws. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes by all council members, unanimously by all council members present. That concludes our regular agenda. Now is the time for public comment for any non-agenda items. Any public comment for non-agenda items?
Hi, I'm Laura Campbell. I'm a general manager at McDonald's. And we are concerned because every year for the Heritage Festival, you guys shut the road down. Well, the DDA shuts the road down for 8 hours. And I lose $7,000 to $9,000 a day just on sales. I was wondering if there's any way that can get moved or shortened in any way because it affects my business so bad that, I mean, my employees can't get to my store because the cops won't let them through because of all the road rerouting and all that. And it's a big hassle. So, that's it. Thank you.
We would suggest that you also attend the DDA meeting next week to raise your concern. Any other public comment tonight on any non-agenda items? Being none, we will now have manager council comment before going into closed session. Manager Kerberson, do you have anything to bring to council?
Yes, I just give you an update on a few items. We have received our IT RFPs and we got 3 good ones. We believe we're narrowed it down to one company we like, but we have not announced it to them yet. We've reached out and started or reached out to the owner of the land that we're attempting to purchase and have received no response. Just wanted you to be aware of that. I think we need to assign a couple of council members to a potential police contract committee to interact with the township who at their meeting, their budget meeting on Monday, said they would be creating a committee to negotiate the police contract going forward. So I'd request.
How many members are they putting on their committee?
What I believe is they indicated the president and 2 other members, but they didn't pick them at that time. So I would like to have 2 board members with me to meet with them.
Volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Anybody else?
Oh, I just want to make sure
Myself and Pete.
okay. All right. We need to set our next budget hearing, our secondary review of what that's left in the budget. I don't think that will take an enormous amount of time, but at least an hour, hour and a half. Would you like it to be after the next council meeting or before it?
What agenda items do we have on the next agenda right now?
Probably be the IT contract.
The wastewater presentation?
Well, that would be done in the budget review.
I won't be here for the next village council meeting. Remember, I'm out of town for the first week of June, so I'm not going to be here for the next one. So that would be not only the meeting, but the budget workshop I'd miss too if you do it the same day.
Well, so I'm willing to accept a series of, give me some dates or we can float them and pick who, a day that everybody's available. But the next agenda would be, it'll be probably some various contracts. I'm going to assume, well, no, I don't think the police and operators contract will be ready by that point.
Somebody else missing the first meeting in June, or is it just?
Mindy's the next one, right?
I missed the
17th.
The second meeting in June.
the
right?
second
Me
meeting
too.
in June. Mhm.
Right.
The
Yeah,
final
that's right.
budget of
Both
the
of you
fall.
were gone for the second meeting in June. I was gone for the first one. Bob will be back by then. Something next week or?
We can do next week, but we can't do it on the 27th because we've got a meeting that night. Can you
Next week, Bob won't be here. Just saying.
He will be here?
Will not.
Oh, still will not be here. Okay.
The in-between week.
That's next week.
That is the in-between week.
No, I think he means the second week of June,
Oh,
Yes.
in between the first and
Right.
second meeting.
well, Tuesday the 10th.
Should be able to
6:30
make
or
it
7
work.
o'clock?
You're out.
Budget.
I'm out, but that's okay.
So 7 o'clock, so Wayne can make it?
If you want to push it up a little bit, I'll.
6:30?
Yep.
6:30, Tuesday the 10th. Everybody good with that?
Okay. We now have dates set for our first negotiation with each union. Our first get together, bring out of the details, so that's good news. We should again have both those contracts prepared and ready by the second meeting in June. And the last item is we had talked at the last meeting about a request for the compiled police costs. We have those done. I can email them out to you tomorrow, but it'll be about an extra $11,000 beyond what they've been billed prior to our last budget hearing. So
11,000 more than what they've been. So is this a calculation for all of the last fiscal year, or is this a calculation of year to date this year?
year to date this year.
So we don't actually know what the costs year to date, or excuse me, what the costs were for last fiscal year.
Well, they would be whatever was budgeted, but that would be in last year's budget, not in this calendar year's costs.
I'm just.
So from last June
Mhm.
or July 1st through the end of June is what we're talking about now.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is because they budgeted and paid somewhere around, well, they didn't budget last year. They just paid whatever they were billed, right? And they were billed approximately 3,000, right? And then your suggestion was that they should pay 20 because if they were actually billed correctly, it would actually be a lot more than that. And that's why we're saying, so if we have those calculations, it should demonstrate it was actually a lot more than that. So is that still the same, that we're being able to give them a representative example of, here's what you paid last year versus what you actually should have been billed? Is that correct?
We will be giving them, they know what they were billed last year.
Mhm.
We could put that in there if it was required, but we will have what they will have been billed through this year to date.
Okay.
And there will be some, minor charges over the next 5 weeks.
Right, until we get to the end. So, but in now that these calculations are done, you feel as though it is representative of that 20,000 was a good number for them,
Sure.
essentially.
Because as we will note, some of the things that we are tracking we didn't start tracking it right away this calendar year.
Right.
Or this fiscal year. So those numbers will go up as.
Right, because there would have been more billing had we started allocating and tracking it that way sooner.
Right.
Okay, all right. I just obviously, so we can make a fair
Yeah.
representative argument of it. On that same vein though, I think you mentioned before at the last budget workshop, and I went back to this later, you had mentioned did you say that you wanted them to contribute or pay for repaving of Research Drive?
I had suggested that if they were willing to do that kind of work, since the industrial park is 100% in the DDA and the condition of that road is so poor, it would be a great project for them.
Not that I disagree in contribution of it, because it's in the DDA district, it's a rather large tax capture, they capture 100%, well, ours is net zero because they capture it with TIF, right, for the most part. So I guess, but my question is that falls under local streets, right?
I'm not sure if it's a local or major street, but it's one of those two. One of our
It's not, it just for clarification, it's not private drive, it
No.
is village owned, it's
Correct.
village property, but it's within their tax capture, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you were thinking down the vein that, well, you already got Act 51 monies, et cetera, for it, we do, but it wouldn't be nearly enough to reconstruct it.
And I'm not saying it would, I'm just,
Okay.
first of all, who owns it? Is it local streets, major streets? Why are we asking them to do it? I mean, I get the logic. I want to make sure I understood the logic, because if that's one of the budget items we're supposed to address at subcommittee, just so I had a firm understanding of that. I wanted to know if there was anything I didn't know about
Well,
that
and
part.
again, it wasn't a formal request. It was more of a, hey, maybe you should put this on your radar
Okay,
for us.
so there isn't, well,
I just in passing made a request.
so this is or is not something you want us to address at subcommittee?
It'd be great if you did.
Okay, all right. And was there any other budget items any other council member has any concerns with that they want us to follow up with the joint subcommittee? Because we're doing that soon. So if there's anything else we need to look into, numbers we need to compare, requests we need to make, anything else anybody is concerned with? Because as we all know, there's going to be quite the time crunch. We've got to meet with them, reach a deal. If they got to go back to their board with it, we got to approve it. So it's quite the time crunch if there's anything else that we want.
So if anything comes up, bring it before Tuesday.
Okay.
Send an email.
Tuesday, you said?
We have a subcommittee meeting Tuesday.
Okay.
It was for Friday. It's been moved to Tuesday.
Okay.
And that's all my things.
Chief Criverson or Chief
Willis. Wow, you got promoted there.
What a promotion.
No, I have nothing for the board.
Thank you for the presentation tonight. Ms. Keesler,
No, sir.
Wayne?
Just a real quick question, or comment, maybe a discussion point for a next meeting, or maybe for your subcommittee meeting. The church parking lot, having events there, private businesses are holding events there per, I think, awareness of the DDA. The question I have, where does liability fall if you're a private company and you have vendors on a DDA parking lot or the church's parking lot, whoever's parking lot it is,
Such as the event a couple of weeks ago.
a couple of weeks ago and coming up in a couple of weeks? Whose liability is it?
Churches. It's a churches. The DDA has no ability and no right to rent it out. That event was, they met with the church, got permission from the church. They have a use agreement. The DDA is allowed to use it. They're not allowed to let someone else use it. They don't have permission. It's not their choice. It's not their right. It's those individuals that put on that event went directly to the actual owner, asked the owner, got permission. The DDA was aware that it happened, but only because they're just aware of events that go on. They didn't give permission. They didn't condone it. It's not their thing to do. It is just the church's choice, and the church decided to allow it. So
Okay, but so that's where I'm headed is, do we know that the church is taking on that they know that they're taking on that liability?
I don't know that we can speak to what they do and don't know, but it is their liability. It's that under a use agreement, that the DDA doesn't have it right. The DDA wasn't asked about it either.
Yeah, I know.
It's the liability can't pass to the DDA under the use agreement when the church grants the rights to someone else to use it in addition. They could have use agreements with multiple people if they wanted to as the owner. The liability would still remain with the actual owner, not with the different potential users of it.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't our liability
Makes sense, yeah.
No, that's a great point. That's a good point.
for the things that are going on, yeah. Okay. That's all I got.
Councilmember Schneider? No. Councilmember, or President Pro Tem Stefan?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember? Oh. I was gonna call you
Schneider.
Ferguson just to be funny.
I'm all set, thanks.
I have nothing. That adjourns tonight. No, we are now going into closed session, so we'll have to ask the public to leave, and I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session.
Chief, you could stay.
I'll make the motion that we go into closed session for performance evaluation and contract negotiation for clerk treasurer.
Support.
Powell?
Aye.
Schneider?
Aye.
Steffler?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Lasser?
Aye.
Dyke?
Aye.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
All clear.